So, hello, Meethi. How are you feeling? First of all, tell me about your feelings, emotions, since you have now been here for quite a few days. And I mean, how are you feeling?
It feels good to be back home. It's a good change. So I'm feeling good overall. Yeah, it's good.
Right. Uh, so, broadly, I thought since you are here and now you have had a chance to relax, and very soon you will be planning to go back. Let me just have some inputs from you. First of all, in terms of what your experiences have been, uh, but going back a little back into your journey from school to the time when you decided that no, you want to go abroad and study. Uh, so the very decision to make a transition from a girl who has started from her schooling in Gorakhpur, some kind of a motivation which prompted her to go out. Then particularly more specifically on deciding to choose the subject that you decided to. So second part, we will talk a little bit about your subjects, what you are doing now, and then we will try and relate it to some of the current happenings around. So I would like to have your views on that, and then finally, how do you look at the future in terms of your own professional goals? So the reason why I am also doing is that I mean I happen to be part of a international project which is known as uh, internationalization of curriculum and exchange between some Indian and European universities. Basically, it's a European Union project. So part of it is basically how we in India should internationalize our curriculum so that it is able to meet the requirements of students who then make a transition. And I'm sure you must have heard about the new education policy that has been introduced in India. Are you aware of that? The new
Not
education policy.
thoroughly, just a little bit, like here and there. There have been changes being made and things like that. That like know a little bit about it, but not like anything
Okay,
specific.
okay. So I will not talk about NEP as such, but then for my benefit, I think what inputs you give will help me to give some feeders into my own project. So basically three parts. Therefore, let's
Yeah.
begin with the first part. I mean, how did your journey begin from a student who studied in Gorakhpur, thinking of moving out, and then deciding that no, you want to study abroad. So tell us about the first part of your journey first.
So very briefly, I think when I was
Just Prisha, I'm so sorry. Something went off in between. So you'll have to start again.
understand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, no. I thought because your screen froze.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was very young at that point when I was about like 6, 8 years old, and there was this, there was always this conversation that we had growing up that going out to study is something that my brother and I, as kids, are going to be exposed to at some point. Not because of any like other crazy reason, but it's just because like I think my parents thought that the best way would be to get more of an exposure to not just um to to get like a better education outside of Gorakhpur per se, and to just have that kind of like a holistic development, which is not just in terms of like studying, but also overall in terms of having a personality, having an opinion, thinking and understanding about the different things that happen, that any of my friends who've always studied here and have grown up to go to colleges in the DU or St. Xavier's or any of the other universities in India or abroad, wherever that might be, they lack particularly in any of these things. But I just feel like there's this um, there's this perspective which gets widened, and that doesn't have anything for you to like personally step out to another country. Like you just have to get out of like your home, like the surroundings that you're always very comfortable with. That's where it starts to already make a difference to you as a person, is what I would say. So we were very little when we initially went to a boarding school. I think I was about 10 years old, or yeah, about 10 years old, 10 or 11 years old, and so was my brother, and it was something very new to us. Being so small in age, we didn't really realize what this was for or where this was even going to contribute to or lead towards. Like it was all very like you're a kid and you just go with like what your parents are telling you, as long as you know that if that's like what's better for you. Like that's how it was for us. And I would definitely say that they were like a driving force in this, especially like Papa was very involved and is still very involved in all of our like education related decisions, anything that has to do with like studies or even overall he's just like a very involved parent, but at the same time not an intrusive parent. So it's like yeah, he's involved in
I
both,
hope
but
you are not being just politically correct by saying all
no,
that.
no, 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 no. That's something that I've observed because I see my friends and their parents who are like really involved into their lives and how the kids then turn out to be, which is sort of still very codependent on their parents for something to get something to. For us, I don't think that was always an option because yeah, they were involved, but they were not, they were just involved peripherally. Peripherally. There was no like that intrusion, oh my god, do this, do that. It was all like you have to understand why this is important and that's how you're gonna learn. Because I'm not gonna always be around to keep on telling you to study, to do something. It's it's a gradual thing and you have to understand that. So I feel like somewhere that's where it like got inculcated in us or whatever. And so when I was in Dehradun, it was also a very small school, and essentially it was very just focused into going to other boarding schools which were bigger than that existing school. And over there, I realized is that just going to like a conventional boarding school is not necessarily what like I am looking for as a person. Even though I'm a child or I'm just like 10, 12 years old, I was still looking for something which is more liberal in terms of the education, but also like your holistic development. And I felt like a lot of other boarding schools are very conventional in that sense. They're very like, they're like really like 60, 70 years old, and they're just the kind of education, the kind of culture that is in these schools hasn't changed a bit. It's just very like hierarchical, and there are a lot of things. It's good and bad, I would say. So I always was someone who was more curious into something more liberal to really know what are my likes, what are my dislikes. I mark just getting like the best of grades and just doing very well in school was not something that was my priority. Just getting to the point where learning is important was more of a priority for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but that's something that's really different between my brother and I. He was always very focused on just being very conventional like that, so he went to like a more conventional
So,
boarding school.
can
And
can you elaborate on the word conventional a bit?
conventional in the sense that this like there's this whole structure put in place. There's this everything that happens has been happening there since the past like 60, 70 years. There are prefects, there are
No, I
class
mean,
monitors.
I meant to say that when you say that your brother's mindset is a bit conventional, I mean, is it
Yeah.
a reflection of his general attitude towards life?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it also depends on where he's grown up, right? And the place that he's grown up is like very straightforward in that manner. So he also comes from a very like sort of one tunnel perspective, I would say. Not necessarily in all kinds of things, but it's just the approach.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas I don't generally consider that one thing. I try to think about different perspectives, different opinions, different options, everything that like how many other things can be available, what other options can be made from this existing option or choice or opportunity or whatever that might be.
Okay.
Not just thinking about sort of just that one thing and this is my plan and I'm just going to go about it like this. Like that was never really my thing. But I feel like when you're more in a place where that's inculcated in you since you're like a little child, that's when you grow up thinking in these kind of things that oh like this is how I'm going to do and this is the kind of school that I'm going to go to and whatever. I'm going to be the head boy by like the time I'm in grade 12 and I'm going to be the school captain and things like that. For me, it was more about okay, what am I adding to my personality? It's not necessary to do with grades, it's not necessary to do with where I stand with my friends or my family and things like that. Like, I feel like all these things are very like societal and superficial, just getting the best of grades and just doing very well in the family perspective is not really something that's beneficial to you as a person. Because 10, 20 years down the lane, nobody's gonna ask you, oh, so how much did you get in grade 10 or what was like your mark in like grade 12? They're gonna see, oh, do you have the ability to go out and navigate in the world on your own, or is it something that you still like need help from other people, or are you still hesitant, or what is like your general approach in life? Like to me, all these little things are more important
So
than just like
I think
yeah,
I will be coming back to that point again once in our conversation because it will be
yeah,
linked to the final part of what you might say about your current existence and then how do you look at the future.
yeah.
So I think
And then
I get
yeah,
your point. Yes, please continue.
yeah. So then when I went to Rishi Valley, it was like the most unconventional place that I've seen. Like there are no rules, there are no boundaries, there's no good, there's no bad. Everything is accepted. Every kind of child is accepted. You are supposed to grow in your own way. There is no oh like why aren't you doing well in math and oh well like what if you're good at sports, okay fine, take that but with your studies. If you're more of a nature person, tell me what you really like in that and then pursue it. If you really like bird watching, if it comes to that, okay, fine. Tell me what kind of birds did you see? Do you want to learn more about it? And things like that. It was all a very, like, I feel like that nature part played a lot of importance in us growing up because we were very aware of our environment, of
So
our surroundings.
would you say that going to Rishi Valley helped to become like a very important connect between your decisions to finally decide and go out and do what you're doing now, in a way?
No, not necessarily,
Hmm.
but yeah, somewhere it was there. But it was not something that just going abroad or going outside of the country was not anything that was my
Okay.
priority
Yeah.
at any point in time. It was just something that happened very like naturally that we
I
were like
will
sort of
continue to have my biscuit as we are conversing. You can
right.
also have
Yeah.
yours.
No, I'm
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, that school was very unconventional in like a lot of ways, which really helped like broaden my perspective about the world. Like it made me feel like my problems and things that I'm going through and what I might think, oh my god, like this is the end of the world. It's really not. Like I'm just a very tiny part of like the whole entire universe that's all around us. And as like a 13-year-old, as a teenager, when you're exposed to such things, it's also something that's very small, but at a larger scale, it's also a great realization to have as a child. And that kind of really like I would opened our eyes to the world because we came in just like as useless kids with no brains of our own, and just like nothing I would say.
Don't
But
worry. Even at a much senior age, people keep having that feeling. Don't worry about that.
yeah, yeah, and there was no like, oh my God, this is your teacher, so you have to have that kind of teacher equation with them, or there was no such thing. It was all a very friendly environment, a very supportive, a very like creative, and like a very good environment to grow up as a child, I would say. And there was no like, there was a greater sense of purpose, because at the end of the day, you would always feel have that fulfillment. We were at the end of the day, like after dinner, we would be asked, okay, tell us what made you feel happy today, what are you grateful for, what did you do to give back to your community today, and things like that really help you be more grounded in your own way. And that's something that people don't realize, like they just like keep on going like very materialistically and mindlessly through their lives, and are not very aware and conscious of their surroundings. So whether it was just the nature, whether it was just other students, whether it was the staff that would help us, or anybody, we were all meant to appreciate every work, every piece of work, anything and everything that happens on campus has to be appreciated, cannot be taken for granted. There is no privilege, there is no, oh, like you're gonna get a special treatment just because like your parents are like very rich or something like that. Like in a lot of these other schools, there's a lot of that. Be like, oh, like we're so rich and like we have to just, this is our own separate group and things like that. Like there was no that kind of like categorization or groupism or anything like that. So I feel like that helped everybody get more connected on a very personal level and also feel very grounded. So all these feelings of just adding to your personality and that holistic development really kind of just got really better for me in like school in Rishi Valley, and also with the studies. Like I first started really liking economics, or the concept of economics, because then I didn't really know what it really was when I was in seventh or eighth grade, and that's where it started more as like a curiosity. Okay, what is this? Okay, like why does this work? Okay, what are markets? Okay, what is this? What is like anything that's happening, and why do people do it? And I was very lucky to have teachers who were very supportive, who were very understanding of, okay, Prisha, if you like this is why this happened. Go read this book and tell me how you feel about this. Then we can have a discussion about it, or whatever you think it is, you let me know, and then I can help you better understand something or not. And to me, having that kind of discussion about the subjects that I was taking up in school was very kind of I would say encouraging that young mind and that young curiosity. So I got very like curious on my own, and I wanted to learn on my own, and I wanted to do all these things on my own. So that's when I sort of decided that I would maybe want to study like economics further as part of something else. That's when it happened in grade 8 or 9. But at the same time, I'm still very confused. Regardless of whether I'm going to get a degree soon or whatever it is, there's never going to be a point where you're going to be like, okay, fine, this is like, at least for me, it hasn't happened that it's like, okay, this is it and this is what I'm going to do. Just because I feel like you have to constantly be open to any and every kind of opportunity. Keep an eye out. If you're confused, just keep looking, keep reading, keep doing your research, and you're going to get there eventually. Um, yeah, and that's how like sort of like my schooling till grade 10 happened, and then there was just that kind of like turn of events where I was like, okay, like how, what do I want to do for like grade 11 and 12? Do I want to still like, a friend of mine suggested that we're gonna do like the International Baccalaureate program, which is the IB. So they kind of suggested that, you know what, like we're looking into it. I think even you would enjoy it. And this was the same friend who like Rishi. So I would know that, okay, fine, yeah, I know where he's coming from and things like that. And I just kind of gave it a shot. Like I didn't really think about it. I was like, okay, fine, you know what, like let's see, let's just do it. There's no harm. IB was very different from like ICSE or like the other ways of like learning that we were used to, even in Rishi Valley. It was like a complete change of like perspective and picture and everything, because it India, or like this is how things worked here. And then IB was very like, okay, like this whole world and this whole global perspective and everything. And it was crazy to first like think about it, because I was like, oh my god, this is just like never ending. They can just ask me a question from like anywhere. I don't know how I'm going to do well in this, but at the same time, the way that the program is designed, it's really like good for you as a student to learn more and to also again reflect more about what you're learning.
So
So,
IB acted as a very good, you can say, bridge or
yeah,
connect between your previous
yeah,
school and then your choices.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Even now when people do ask me, okay, should we try it? Should we like go to IB and things like that? I always tell them that yeah, you should. Everybody should. But keep in mind that it's not conventional. You can't just mug up definitions from textbooks and get grades. Like that's not gonna happen. You have to be very open to like learning beyond your textbook, doing your own research, having that opinion, kind of balancing perspective and things like that in every subject. It's not just economics or English or Hindi or whatever it might be. And I feel like a lot of people can't adjust because it's so hard at that point in your life as a student to change the way that you've been studying and things like that. So definitely, if I hadn't come from Rishi Valley, I don't think I would have been able to adjust either, just because of the way that we're taught in a lot of schools. Like I don't think that would have been my cup of tea. Like just if it was just given to me or something like that. Um, so that's when my perspective kind of changed, and I was still open to thinking about colleges. When I really started thinking about it, it was very like sort of the private universities in India and maybe a one or two abroad, like depending on what kind of budget I might have, what kind of a scholarship am I getting, how far is it, what are the expenses involved, like a lot of things to consider. Um, but for whatever reason, and this is something that I've noticed now. That time, a lot of universities in India were not necessarily accepting like IB grades and things like that, because they were like the translation of this into like an Indian number percentage is kind of less compared to like how much our students score and things like that, because now it's just crazy, it's through the roof. Everyone is getting like a 95 plus and things like that.
Even history students get
But
95.
yeah,
Yes.
but but for some reason, now since COVID and everything, we've become way more open and accepting of these IDPs and things like that. And I know a lot of my juniors from school and things who've gone to like NMIMS and Ashoka and like Jindal and other like private universities, which is a really good thing, because at least they're like more like open to it now and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it kind of happened, and I just kind of stuck to economics. But at the same time, this is when I was beginning to realize that I need to understand whether I want to get into the financial aspect of it or the policy side of it, or like what do I really want to do with it, because on a base level, I'm not someone who's like really good with numbers on the go. Like it's not like it just comes naturally to me. Yeah, if I make effort,
If
if
that
I
is
look in,
the case, if that is the case, I think you have inherited it from your mama.
yeah, I don't know. But it's not something that's like so natural. Like I know a lot of my friends, we don't have any problem in just grasping it out like once. But to me, I'll get it, but it'll take a few tries and things like that. So I didn't wanna keep it very specific for a degree, because I was like, I don't know if like I like it, but it's just liking it enough for like a whole career option and things like that. So then I decided to do a double degree between economics and business, and then I would kind of choose like whatever. I would still have business, so then I would still be learning all those businessy things while also majoring in economics and things like that. And but at the same time, this is very like on me and like from my experiences. I think that since I'm somebody who's like doing more on the arts kind of things, I'm not really studying engineering or medicine or like something else that is very straightforward in terms of career options. Um,
So are
arts
you
and
talking about your present subjects and
Yeah,
syllabi?
a little behind my present time.
Okay,
This
okay,
was,
okay.
yeah, this was when I realized that I can't just be studying, even in university, without really, like, I wanted to sort of also work in some capacity to really understand how is it going to be out there. Okay, fine, these 4 years, 5 years, yeah, okay, after that I got to work for some time to really understand what's going to happen, how is the professional world really like, what kind of roles and offers do companies have. I just wanted to get a good understanding of all this before I would graduate, before I would be like, okay, I have this degree now, I have to look for a job. Because that's something that I'm still very confused about. And I was like, I cannot just be studying one thing and then randomly wake up and decide, okay, I'm going to do this job and things like that. So then I decided to enroll myself in the co-op program. So the co-op program is essentially a work study program. So you work for 4 months, you study for 4 months, you work again for 4 months, you study again for 4 months. Okay, now there are pros and cons in this. The pros is you get a good like 2.5 years worth of work experience before you graduate. So by the time you're done studying, you also have that whole work experience thing that okay, I've worked here, I know how this works, that works. Maybe this is something I could consider, maybe this is something that's not for me. The con is that it's a lot it's a lot of pressure to like study and apply for jobs and give interviews and have it at a professional scale. It's not just an internship, which I can do like maybe for 3 to 4 hours a day. It's like a whole job for 4 to 5 months. So the pressure there's a lot of like stress and pressure involved in like applying, getting the position, getting offers, getting interviews, but I would say it's all worth it in the end. It's very stressful, but at the bigger picture, now I know how a resume should look like. How do I write a cover letter? How do I reach out to employers? How do I actually work and how do I talk to people and communicate and everything? And I'm only going into my 4th year. I'm not even like done with my degree or anything, but I already have all of this knowledge and experience in everything
So
along with studying.
if I just intervene at this stage, so how much of what you might have done so far has a component or percentage of economics, and how much of it has been business? Like, could you tell me about like some of the papers that you have done to give me an idea?
Some of the papers or jobs.
No, papers. I mean the courses that you have done.
Okay,
Yeah. What is your degree
so
known
it's
as at present?
it's for okay. So I am doing a double degree in economics and business with a specialization in finance, and I also have an international trade minor.
And this is at the University of Waterloo.
Yeah.
And which is the department?
So it's the Department of Arts
Department of
and
Arts.
Business.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how much would be the component of economics and how much of it is business that you might have done? Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially every semester we're required to take um, at least 2 economic classes, economic courses, and one business class, and 2 others for your if you're doing a minor, if you're doing something else, whatever it might be. So that's how it's kind of like divided. So for me, what what my semester last in the winter, what it looked like was 2 courses of economics, one business class, one introduction to public policy class, and one more economics class because
Okay.
that was something I just wanted to try. So that's how it's divided out.
And within economics, there is an equal focus on economic theory as well as economic policy, or so that's why I said if you can give
No.
some examples of some courses that you might have done.
Yeah, yeah. So something that we might have done in terms of policy, you have to. So I don't really do very policy intensive classes because I chose to do an international trade minor, which has like public policy and introduction to like the global markets and things like that. So for me, that's like my policy side for now. And in terms of the economic side, it's more about markets and how they work, financial markets and business finance and things like that. Because I wanted to keep the economics to economics and then have something which would give me like more of like an international perspective. So I went in with the trade minor because I feel like international relations and things could be something that I could be interested in the future,
Okay.
somewhere down the line. Yeah,
That's again where you share a common interest with your mamaji. So
yeah,
that's wonderful to hear. So and in this process, did you also do some, I mean, what we call here assignments, term papers, or some projects relating to your courses? To
yeah.
know,
So we,
basically, just to know what you went into a little more deeply on your own in terms of
yeah,
research.
in terms of the economics classes, it's very sort of like coding and a lot of like numbers involved in that because that's more of like a financial perspective as opposed to like a policy perspective. But all other classes require you to do like a project every semester. So you maybe choose a company. For example, last semester we just chose Air Canada, which is an airline, which is a Canadian national airline. We just chose Air Canada, and then you have to do a whole like you have to formulate like um, a research question that okay, this is what I'm going to investigate. So we were looking into how the airline was managing with the impacts with the changing market scenarios because of the pandemic. So we were looking into unemployment, layoffs, how are they dealing with that kind of the new kind of this summer sort of season when people are just booking left, right, and center. They just want to go off. What do they do in case of like cancellations, weather changes, COVID variants, whatever that might be? So that was something we were looking at. And then in terms of like some other class, we looked at the difference. And okay, I don't remember exactly because this was like 3 4 months ago, but we were looking at the comparisons between powers, so international powers between the US, Russia, China, Asia, sort of think tanks and the UN and a lot of other little divisions that we have made. So we were looking into how who do I think is like the most powerful in all of these and why not and things like that.
So I mean, since this has gotten me interested, uh, what were your conclusions? I mean, when you talk about international relations, how do you look at the world in
Yeah,
terms of power dynamics today? And
yeah. So
and
power
is it going to like
yeah. So
sustain, or you still feel that it's a very fluid situation?
I feel like power dynamics are very fluid, and you can never say for sure. Oh, I think US is like the most powerful nation and power that there is in the world, and like in China is like losing its power, somebody else is doing something else, and Russia has come in with the war and things like that. I feel like power dynamics are very fluid, especially in today's day and age where there's so much communication, so much exposure and knowledge of everything that every other country is doing and all of that. There's no that kind of there is, but like there's a limitation to the asymmetric information as they say. The things that you can really keep to yourself as a nation. So I feel like it's very fluid. We definitely just said like in conclusion that we definitely think that the US is powerful, but are they the most powerful? No, I cannot say that because China exercises certain kind of power in the South Asian Sea, for example, which the US cannot do right now. Or like Russia has that kind of control over Ukraine right now when nobody is saying anything. So does that mean Russia is the most powerful? Because just because there's like throwing a fully fledged war in another country, no, we cannot say that because it's like really fluid and it's very subjective in terms of what are the parameters you're considering. How are you seeing that this is more powerful than that, and what kind of like economic scenarios and things are you taking in mind before saying that? So we just kept it to a very like sort of simplistic and general level where we were like, okay, we think that in terms of these conditions, the US is definitely more powerful than the UN, for example, or somebody else. But if we were to predict something, power dynamics, I would see are like the most fluid things that there are. Like there is nothing more definitive than that.
So in that context, does India also figure somewhere uh,
I
as a
think
global
so.
power? And
I think so.
yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, like I think they do. I think we do. But it just depends in like what kind of capacity are you considering it. Like I see a lot of exports happening from India. So if India were to stop it, where would these people get their clothes from, their cheap labor from, their like really cheap like things that get exported from third world countries to the world? So they have that power. If they were to stop it, if they were to stop sending out some kind of crop cultivations or things like that or whatever it might be, somebody else is going to get affected, who is dependent on this crop or this t-shirt or this like clothing consignment or whatever that might be. So in that sense, I feel like they do hold their power also in that sense because it really depends, right? Like what kind of parameter are you considering? Like we looked into it that a lot of like Nike, whether it's any of these big companies, they just outsource their like clothing consignments to like third world countries to get kind of cheap, get it in cheap and things like that. Like it's all made in India now. So if India was to stop it and be like, okay, we're not exporting this anymore, or where would they be getting that kind of infrastructure and capacity to make it so quick and so fast and things like that? So I feel like everyone has their power in their own way. It's just the way that you're considering it. That's what I would.
So there was a news item yesterday about
Mm-hmm.
Indian economy. I wonder if you checked on that.
Yeah, that it overtook Britain
Yes,
to
yes.
be the yeah yeah
And the very fact that, I mean, you are from India, of course, in Canada it does not matter anymore because Canada is full of Indians. The fact that
mm-hmm.
you are from India, does that create positive vibes? Suppose you are going to an audience which is entirely Western. Any
No,
perceptions? Why? Why is
I
that
don't
so?
think so because I feel like the general perspective is these people are just coming here to take our jobs and it's just that they're just doing better than us. They're like just getting rich and everything. I feel like there's a lot of like I wouldn't want to say unrest, but just that feeling of that, oh, these people are coming in to take our jobs, to do our thing, to whatever it might be. So I don't think there's, I mean, I haven't really experienced it. I don't know, maybe like it happens in a couple of years or something where they go like, okay, there's this like newfound respect. Of course, some people do have it, but in general, I haven't really noticed or seen that with like a whole lot of like people in general. So I don't know. Not right now. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I know that we have like the capacity to make a difference if we want to, like whenever, because of everything. Yeah.
I think that's an important point. So that brings
Yeah.
us to the last part of our conversation. और ये conversation हम लोग हिंदी में करेंगे और इसमें तुमको कोशिश करनी है कि तुम केवल हिंदी में बोलो. कोशिश करो जितना बोल सकती हो. तो हम लोगों ने बात की तुम्हारी जर्नी के बारे में, स्कूल से गोरखपुर से बाहर निकलने का, किस तरह से फिर डिसीजंस ने तुम्हें मोटिवेट किया और सब्जेक्ट्स चुनने का कनाडा में. अब बात करते हैं भविष्य की. तुम अब फोर्थ ईयर में अपने पहुंचने वाली हो और मुझे ऐसा भी पता चला कि अगर तुम 6 महीने बाद आती तो शायद तुम एलिजिबल हो जाती वर्क परमिट के लिए अप्लाई करने के लिए. ऐसा कुछ था शायद.
Oh,
अच्छा,
I
ऐसा कुछ
pata
नहीं
nahi.
था. अच्छा, पता नहीं. तो अब फ्यूचर के टर्म्स में क्या प्लान्स हैं और कैसे तुम देखती हो अपने आप को? मतलब 1 साल में कोर्स ख़त्म हो जाएगा तो आगे किस तरह का भविष्य तुम अपने आप के लिए देख रही हो?
Uh, कोई ऐसा प्लान नहीं है अभी कि यही होने वाले या वही होने वाले. मेरा फोकस अभी is just to work a bit more.
हिंदी
आफ्टर मतलब
हिंदी
एक बार पढ़ाई हो जाए तो थोड़ा काम करना है, और उसके बाद थोड़ी और पढ़ाई करनी है मे बी, पता नहीं, देखते हैं, पर ऐसा मन तो है मेरा कि थोड़ा और पढ़ने का मन है, बिकॉज मुझे बस ऐसा लगता है कि कभी ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आपको सब मालूम हो एंड आप बहुत बड़े हो गए हो, लाइक मास्टर्स करने के लिए या कुछ भी करने के लिए, तो मन है मेरा और पढ़ने का। कुछ और बहुत स्पेसिफिक, जैसे मेरी डिग्री में बहुत सारे कंपोनेंट्स हैं, इकोनॉमिक्स है, बिजनेस है, ये है, वो है, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं। तो कुछ स्पेसिफिक बहुत जो मैं जानती हूँ दैट विल एड टू मी एज अ पर्सन, लाइक मेरे पर्सनालिटी में, मेरे थॉट प्रोसेस को वो हेल्प करेगा। इसलिए मुझे पहले काम करना है, क्योंकि मुझे उस साइड का पूरा लाइक देखना है कि मैं मुझे क्या पसंद है, नहीं पसंद है, और उस हिसाब से और पढ़ना है या नहीं पढ़ना है, जो भी करना है। इन द लॉन्ग रन मुझे खुद का कुछ काम करना है, एंड दैट डज नॉट हैव टू डू विथ not coming back to India necessarily. I would say I'm on a quest to really find something that makes me passionate enough to work in a way that I can really impact people. To me, just making a social impact is way more important than a monetary impact in the short run. Like, obviously, I want to make money, who doesn't? But to be able to touch a few people's lives and to really understand that you made an impact into their life, um, gives me more fulfillment than just getting a job with an insane amount of money and things like that. I feel like in the short run that's good, but
हाँ हाँ, अभी अभी बात होगी तुम्हारी, नानी से बात होगी अभी, पहले मुझसे बात कर लो, बस अनदर
in
टू
the
मिनट्स
short run, it's good, but in the bigger perspective, and for me as an individual, what have I taken from all these years of learning, from all these different kinds of exposures, all these different kinds of people that I've met? I really want to give back to the community in a way that I can continue to keep on making impact. I can continue to keep on, like, I want people to be able to see that, yeah, I somehow change my direction or whatever it might be because I met her or whatever that is. So it's not really to do with being in a specific place. I was never really the one to be like, okay, just because I've gone to study there, I'm just going to stay there, because I feel like it depends on what do you want to do and how do you want your life and your career to pan out. For me, it was not always about the money. It was always about making an impact into people's lives, into really making them feel appreciated and their effort is also going somewhere. So that was very important to me. So I'm just kind of always continuously thinking about ways in which I can have something of my own in that capacity. In the past, I have worked in with foundations in Delhi and things like that, which work with like the Delhi school boards and things like that for education and all of that, and they have like these various other social programs as well. So I don't know. It's just like right now immersing myself to get those kind of experiences before I can decide that this is what I really want to do. Because I don't think I don't know. I don't think that just like doing a job or just like doing something like that is like the most fulfilling for me. Because again, it's conventional and I'm not conventional. I look out for ways to stand out in my own way, which doesn't have to do with like what the society thinks. Oh, this is like, oh my god, like you're like doing so well for yourself, but also well for the people. Because I feel like in kind of chasing that success, we become so selfish in just how am I going to earn better, how am I going to look better, how am I going to be better, rather than am I really making any difference in the society that I've been brought up in, the society that's like changing around me, in the people that work and grow in this economy that's around me. So for me, it's all about that
ओके
impact at the ground level and then working with it rather than just like, I don't know, to
आई
each
आई
their own, but to me, that's something that's way more like I gravitate towards rather than just the conventional form of okay, I want like a high paying package and I want to just climb the corporate ladder and things like that. That was never really like my thing. So yeah, just figuring a lot of things out, but while making some money because you got to be independent too.
I think that
So
makes
yeah.
it pretty clear, and I wish you all the best. I think I now have an overall perspective of uh, what you feel, where you are, and that's more important. I mean, future is uncertain, so good to know about this. And from now onwards, we will be in continuous conversation. Maybe not in this kind of a recorded mode, but I wanted this just to keep it with me. So thank you very much. I'm now putting off my recording option, but the meeting option will remain open so that you can speak to
Yeah.
Nani and Tejas and everyone else and Mami also. So
Yeah.
so here is now over to your good old German return Nani.